everybody, welcome back to my channel. It is May after Eurovision. We just got finished on Saturday with the final, and here we are reeling from the event. I want to say congratulations to the Netherlands, to Duncan Lawrence on your performance and your big win on Saturday. It was a really great performance. It's a really good example of how a good song and an excellent singer with the right staging can make a huge impact. It was simple, it was evocative, it was everything it needed to be to convey the message, and people bought into it, and I love that. Also, I wanted to give a couple thoughts on the Big Five. So if you were paying attention to the voting, you probably noticed that other than Italy, the Big Five did pretty poorly again, as well as the host country. And yes, there are always some people who will say, oh, it's because their songs weren't as good. That can't always be true. And it isn't always true. I think, my own personal opinion, and I am willing to be wrong on this, and I will probably change my mind from time to time, but my current personal opinion is I think the Big Five countries need to get together and go to the EBU and say, look, we don't want to pull funding, but we want a chance to qualify for the grand final. I think it would benefit them if they didn't have this status that put them in a position ahead of other countries to start off the bat. I think they would be treated more fairly and more respectfully overall. Now, obviously, political feelings and anything like that will play a part, as it always does, but if I were one of the Big Five countries, I personally would rather stay in a semifinal with a bunch of other excellent acts that also didn't qualify, rather than go to a final and wind up at the very bottom of a score sheet with huge margins between us and the people that actually got chosen to even be there. So, just my 2 cents. Let me know how you guys feel about the Big Five in general. As usual, try to keep your comments respectful and kind. You can completely disagree with each other, but there's really no need to be rude. Other than that, the main purpose for this video is I wanted to talk about the American Song Contest that we've all been hearing about. Since I am an American, I figured I may as well put in my 2 cents, how I feel at the moment. For those of you who are unaware so far, they announced during the finals week that there was going to be an American Song Contest that is a working title only that would be taking place starting around 2021 or 2022 in the United States. They held a press conference that I will link the Wee Wee Blogs version of it down below in the comments, so you're welcome to go check it out and see the entire press conference. There isn't much that we know so far, but what we do know is that it's going to be just the United States. That makes sense based on their descriptions of how much easier it is to get one country to participate than trying to collaborate with a lot of different countries with different politics, different governmental structures. So that makes sense. And the US is pretty large, so there are plenty of opportunities to get good, solid musical acts to the contest. I do always get a little bit edgy, I guess, when people use the word American to describe just the United States, and I'm sure a lot of you would agree. There have been people asking for a song contest for the Americas, which would include North and South America, and as fun as I think that would be, that's just not what they're going for right now. So that's not what this is going to be. Again, it is a working title right now. They only just signed the contract to go forward a couple weeks ago, so there are plenty of things for them to still work through. Another thing that they mentioned in the press conference is that it probably won't be a week of competition. It'll probably be a whole season. So this is where some of my own concerns kind of sink in. If you're familiar with TV in the US, you're probably aware that we are saturated with song competitions, talent shows, everything from The Voice to American Idol, to all sorts of different things that we forget about because they were just so short-lived. It concerns me to have something like the Eurovision Song Contest come to the US, to a market that's already saturated with these types of shows, and try to change and succeed. I worry because I'm a Eurovision fan. I don't want to see something come to the US and then just get discarded as just another cheap music show, because it's not. And also, I get concerned from the American side of things because I have seen how so many of these shows start off promising these genuine talent shows with genuinely fair and balanced competition styles, just to turn it into something that is overly staged, overly scripted, overly hyped just for ratings. Ratings are important, I get it. Eurovision Song Contest does also employ some of those techniques to get more hype building. This is why the voting results structure changes almost every year, to get more hype and excitement built. But the US tends to do that in a way that takes away from the reality of the competition, and I do not want to see that happen. So one of my biggest hopes is that in doing this, the Americans who are joining in on this and signing the American side of the contracts, I hope that they will put aside any just presumptions that they have about how this type of show should go, and trust the people from Eurovision who have decades upon decades of experience with this type of show, and just will trust the process and say yes more than they try to butt in with their own just their own ideas and just the formulas that are so tired. Some people have noted that they're more concerned that this won't be like an American version of Eurovision, but more like an American version of Melodifestivalen from Sweden. I've only seen bits and pieces from Melfest, but even that doesn't really bother me so much because Melfest is such a well-respected institution in Sweden that I would take that over nothing at this point. Another thing that really concerns me is that you'll hear in the press conference that the organizers have been saying that they really need Europeans to come on board with this and support this move to America. America has a lot of Eurovision fans here, but it is very much spread out. For the most part, we don't know about each other. We just know that we're out there somewhere. But I just don't envision this as something that most European Eurovision fans will really get behind and care about, because honestly, it's the US. Like, there may be a base level interest, but not enough to help and join in with the hype, not enough to travel over here and participate in getting things started up or coming and visiting the shows. I mean, unless you're already planning a trip to the States in the city that it's hosted in, I don't see a motivation factor to get a whole bunch of Eurovision fans over here to help hype things up. Tell me if I'm wrong, but that's just the sense that I get. And then the other thing that I worry a little bit about is just that the original goals behind Eurovision won't really translate. Now I get that part of the goal of Eurovision is to show off a lot of the technological advances in broadcasting. Okay, we got that covered. That's absolutely bound to happen as long as we have the funding down and we say yes to the things that are being suggested to us. But the idea of bringing together a bunch of communities in this friendly competition, I don't have the security in my heart to feel like we, being the US, will really understand that and grasp it. And maybe that's just me overthinking things, and let's face it, I overthink things a lot. But I would love to see it be a friendly competition. But I just don't know. And they have said that they're not sure if it's going to be states versus states or regions competing or even major cities. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what things happen. There's not much that we can really know for sure at this point. So I'm just conjecturing kind of my hopes and dreams. The main thing that confuses me about this whole setup, if it's going to be similar to Eurovision, even in the voting structure, is how are you going to keep people, for example, if it's states versus states, how are you going to get people to not vote for their own state? And I know that there's some toying around with VPN that happens in Europe with Eurovision, but that's, from what I can tell, very, very minor. But in the US, we don't have that sort of structure. Like, most of us use a VPN of some sort on a regular basis. We can easily travel across state lines to vote for our own state. This is assuming that people are even excited enough to participate and to vote. So that's kind of my baseline. People are really excited and want to support their own state. I'm going to keep listening and seeing what comes out as things progress. Another thing that I've heard, concerns for people that were really excited about the Asia Eurovision. I understand why that takes longer and is more of a hassle to set up, and people that were really excited about it are more disappointed to hear about this because they feel like they're just gonna get disappointed again. So we'll see what happens. I will be posting a couple more reaction videos to some of the national finals you guys have suggested. I did want to say my apologies regarding Ukraine. Maruv, I know that a lot of you wanted me to react to Maruv's song, but it has been impossible during this Eurovision season to avoid seeing and hearing it. So I have seen and heard it already, so I can't really do a reaction video, but I do want to give props to Maruv and her whole team. Ukraine, we missed you this year, and we hope to see you back very soon. Other than that, I think we're all kind of in the season where we have to come to terms with the fact that Eurovision is over, and I think we all just need a big hug. So, hugs from me to all of you. Again, let me know in the comments just how you feel about this whole American Song Contest thing, how you feel about the Big Five situation. Please be kind to one another, and I will see you back in my next video. Thanks so much.